Hello, this is Angela back with another live Tuesday night webinar through the Connections membership. So Dr. Ray and Jean will be on shortly, and all I'm doing right now is starting the live stream of the webinar on their Facebook account so that others can watch it as well, just on a different platform. So while I do that, let me tell you a bit about what is going to be concerning tonight. So tonight's webinar is going to be about commitment. Although Dr. Ray and Jean will be talking about commitment, they'll also be talking about the other side of it, meaning the fear of commitment. So what I want you to do while we wait for them is just think about what commitment means to you. You know, what might be your own definition? Think about any things in the past that you have committed to, or maybe were afraid about committing to. So while you think of that, we are going to remember always meditate about our topic at the end of the session. So keep all of that in mind and just take a quiet moment to go ahead and get settled, get into a comfortable position, and make sure that your environment is nice and comforting. Maybe you have dim lighting, or maybe all the other distractions are turned off, whatever you need to do. Hi.
Hi, Ange.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great.
Good. How are you doing, Ange?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Wonderful.
And we are going live on Facebook right now.
Oh, this is great.
Very
This is
exciting.
fantastic. And we have our good friends from Mindflix Films today that are helping us with our setup today, which is really exciting. It's really awesome.
Different camera angles.
Different camera angles. I just wanted to check the sound and just make sure that.
Oh, wow. This is really great. Oh, my goodness. Yes, I would say the sound crystal clear.
Perfect.
Fabulous.
Awesome. It's really good.
So today's topic.
Yeah, today, this is going to be really awesome because, I don't actually know how we come up with these topics, but they just come about because, in working with clients, a topic surfaces.
Right. Yep.
So I was working with a client and the topic of commitment came up. Commitment, right.
Yeah, we interviewed a couple. We haven't aired this podcast yet, but last Friday. And they were older people that had been divorced, and they had not so great marriages and really not so great divorces.
Yeah.
And so they both had sworn off ever getting married again.
Right. Not relationships, just the commitment of getting married.
Yeah.
Right. And then I had a client today who was talking about making a commitment to himself to put aside his business that he started so that he can focus on learning how to play guitar. This is like a passion of his, right?
Yeah.
And his focus, he actually said that I made a commitment to myself, right?
That's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Like I make commitments in my head, like, oh, today's going to be one of those good days. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And usually I forget about it by the time I'm into my day. Right. And so one of the things that I did to help me with commitment, I hired a personal trainer. Now we're going back to that episode on accountability, right?
This is like your 10th personal trainer. I think. Yeah.
But even like this helps me stay committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like, you have to measure it. You have to have accountability. You have to have those things, which I think is why we shy away from commitments.
Yeah. Commitments are really scary, right? Because if you state to the world, this is my commitment, I'm making a commitment to something, then, now you're facing accountability. You're facing everyone else's judgment about whether you're able to actually follow through or not.
Right.
right? Versus just keep it into, I'm going to make a commitment to myself.
Oh, we
you
lie to
know?
ourselves all the time.
Yeah. I'm going to work out 4 times a week, and, it's a lot easier to blow yourself off than, if you do that. But making that commitment, and, in the case of a lot of things that came up this week, one commitment was about marriage. Right? Committing in front of everyone else that I am going to join you as a partner for life, and legally binding.
So, that gave me the heebie-jeebies.
I know.
Before we got married, the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning of our wedding day, I was like,
right,
not doing it.
So if any of you have heard our story on our podcast, we did, we were interviewed by our kids about our relationship. And that was right around last Valentine's Day. I think that's when it aired. But you talked about that fear, right? The commitment, getting in front of, all these people that are in our lives and committing to our marriage.
Right.
And
yeah, I really didn't. And, I think there's a difference in committing to yourself about things that you want to do for you, and making a commitment that involves another person. And that means that whatever they choose impacts this commitment as well. And that's really scary and vulnerable. And, that was what I was going through, on the day of our wedding. Was I didn't want to stand in front of everyone I knew pretty much and show that vulnerability, that I was going to trust you with my heart. And if you did anything to make a fool out of me, it would be very public and really painful and really embarrassing.
Right.
And that's, that had been my experience in life, that anytime you faltered, there was always someone to, make fun of you and pick at you while you were down. And so it was really scary to me.
Which is why the fear of commitment is a very real thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether you're committing to a workout program or to a diet or to a marathon, right? Or even to marriage. There's fear involved.
Yeah.
Because you are putting out there to the world your vulnerabilities, as you said, it's very vulnerable, to say that there is a risk here that I am not going to, make it. I'm not going to succeed.
I remember that when I made that commitment to do the 1,000-mile hike in the 2016,
right?
The year I turned 50. And I remember all the interesting things that people would say to me, like, you can't do it, or you won't do it, or why don't you modify it? Why don't you start with something easier? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And even before we went on the big hike, the 200-mile hike in the mountains in the John Muir Trail, people were making bets like that we wouldn't make it.
That we wouldn't, that we would fail.
Right.
Yeah.
And, at mile 93,
you broke your toe and chipped a bone in your ankle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which did make us stop short, but we only stopped 20 miles short. We did almost another 100 miles after that.
Right.
So we ended up doing 180 miles, which was so fantastic. And I think that's the benefit of the commitment. When you don't make a commitment and it gets tough, you let yourself off the hook. And when you make a commitment and it gets tough, you grow, you push through, you heal something, and you grow. And certainly I remember it was in February of 2016, we went for a 1 mile, very flat on a trail hike, and I was dying. Right. And that was the first mile of the 1,000 miles, and worked all the way up to carrying, I had a 45-pound pack. You had a 50-pound pack, up and over mountain passes 10 miles a day. Like, we got to that. And that's another thing with commitment, is you only make a commitment because you don't know if you can do it.
Yeah. The thing is, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to falter. That's just part of trying something new and trying something challenging. But that's why people shy away from it. They don't want to fail. They don't want to look foolish in front of other people. I mean, can we say that we completed the John Muir Trail completely? No, because we didn't do 200 miles,
right? But
we did 180 miles. Right. And for people that, in 2015 were not hikers, in 1 year to be able to get to the point of doing 180 miles, 10 mountain passes, up to 12,000 feet of elevation. I mean, that's a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
And it would not have happened unless there was a commitment. So it sets the bar,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't set the bar, you're never going to actually get close to it at all.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is really important with commitments is I was really meticulous in writing down every time I hiked and every mile I did, every single day. I either did 0 or I did some, and I kept track. I kept track what day I was on, how many nights we'd been in a tent, and what mile we were at. And I can look back and, when I'm 60, when I'm 70, when I'm 80, I'll still have been the person that walked 1,000 miles.
Absolutely. Right. Can't take that away from you.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
So you know what? I think this might be a good moment to bring up a question.
Cool.
So here it is. So someone says, I had wanted to go skydiving. And I told some people before I did, and some of them were also anxious and doubting me, like you mentioned. So, how is it that you got through the anxieties or doubts of other people when you were doing your hike?
That's a really great question because, if you are influenced by people and you're used to being influenced by people in your life, it can be very hard to break away and follow something that is, in your gut and your passion, and the thing is that when we're infants, when we're little children, we trust our gut. We listen to our gut.
Right.
Right? Our gut tells us the right thing every
and all the
single
adults
time.
around us say, no, no, no.
Right. And then as we grow up, we're being told different messages,
Mm-hmm.
right? No, you have to be quiet. You have to sit still. You have to, whatever the messages are, they go against what our gut is telling us. And so we just learn to tune that out. And then as adults, now we're challenged to listen to that gut and tune into it again, and to stop being influenced by all of the messages that we're being given. We are going to get the messages of don't, or stop, or you can't do that, right? I mean, I think when we started our practice, our
Yeah.
private practice, our counseling practice, we were told by people very close to us
Yeah.
that we shouldn't do it.
It was less than a year after, 9/11, and the economy wasn't so great. And they're like, this is a terrible time. You shouldn't do it.
Right.
And it's almost like we couldn't not. And, it's interesting when we started the hike, I actually wrote down all those comments.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because for me, that motivates me. Like if someone tells me I can't do something,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go do it just for that reason, just because of that. And so that's really exciting to me. Funny skydiving story. We have some funny skydiving stories as well.
Yeah.
But, as a single person, I woke up one day and I was living in my parents' house. I was probably 19 years old. And I said, bye, Mom, I'm going skydiving. And she's like, sure you are, whatever. Ha, ha, ha. And I did. And I went and drove an hour and a half to Sandwich, Illinois. And I went through, back then it was this 8-hour class you went through, because it was a static line. You didn't have the tandem jump. So you had to like wing walk and then let go, and you had to land yourself. And I came home with a certificate. And that was the last time my mom ever said, oh, sure you're not. Now, when I say things that sound crazy, she's like, uh-oh. And that is kind of in my nature. So to me, it's kind of motivating. But, and this is why we teach people, we request that people read the 4 agreements, because that's one of the things that our words are so powerful.
Yeah.
And try practicing that yourself. If you can practice that, when someone else shares their dream with you, you don't shut it down. And that's a really difficult thing to do, especially if you have adult children and you want to protect them, or you're like, which I'm sure is what people were doing with us, but another book that we often reference is The 7 Levels of Intimacy. And the 4th level of that is dreams, the dreams you have for your life. And it says, if you haven't vetted a person and they're not safe on the first 3 levels of cliche information and opinion, which might not make any sense, but read the book, and you get disrespected at those levels, for sure you shouldn't share your dreams, because sharing your dreams with someone that can't respect them is a great way to knock you down enough that you won't do it. And so I think there is a responsibility to be careful with who you share what with. And this is why I think we have engagement, because the process of engagement is private. It is something that a couple gets close to and decides, I think we're ready for this next step, but we're going to have this private ceremony first, this private ceremony of, I'm going to ask you.
Mm.
And then they share that with the world. And then they have the big celebration and get married. And that is a really important part of commitment, is that there should be that inner commitment and that private commitment between two people before it's shared with the world. Because absolutely, that's a really, really big energy when people don't believe in you, or people think your ideas are stupid, or whatever is the fear thing that they come at you with. But it's really hard to do as the observer too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, for me, commitment is tied to certainty, right? And so as I grew up, you know, my childhood, there really wasn't much certainty. I didn't really know what, you know, to count on. You know, my parents kind of kept things from me. They were very kind of secretive, you know, and it's kind of like, just wait and see, or, you know, we'll talk about it, that kind of thing. And so
and that was for really big things, like where were you going to go to college?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it was everything, every aspect of
yeah.
it.
And so, you know, that you didn't know what you can count on. And I think what really solidified it for me was meeting my stepson.
Mm.
Right. And so he also kind of grew up, you know, in this position of really of uncertainty, really not knowing what he can count on from his male role models. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one thing that I kind of, you know, said to myself was that I am going to do what I say. And I'm going to make sure that when I say I'm doing something, I'm making a commitment, and it's going to happen, because then he can know what he can count on. Right. And so it's really kind of been a theme for our entire relationship, is that if we say to the world that we're going to do something, we do it. Right. We may fail trying, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I say fail, you know, kind of tongue in cheek, because I don't really see it as failure. Right. I see it as an actual, like, trying something that most people wouldn't even do, wouldn't even try. You know, when we started the practice, it's something that most people would never do. They would never try.
Do you remember all the things we offered when we started the practice?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I remember, you know, staying up to like 2-3 in the morning, designing our website for the first time. Mm-hmm. Do I know about website design? No. Right. But you know, it was something that I just tried to do. And, you know, I think that it's in that trying, it's in that first, the commitment, right, that really seals it for yourself and lets you know that you are determined and no one is going to get in your way. No one's going to stop you. And then it's in the trying, regardless of the outcome. Okay. Regardless of the outcome, it's in the trying that fuels your life. It fuels you and keeps you motivated to achieve more and more and more in your life.
And I think we've done this so often. And fortunately, we've done this as a couple for a really long period of time. And now we're in the process. Sorry, Jasmine is tripping all over my cord. Come on, baby. That's our dog. She gets a little restless at night. There we go. She's out of there. So many times we ran into those roadblocks that we had to overcome, that we just got to a point where we have kind of this system in place. And now we have Angie and Dre working with us. And they're seeing the process, and they're as frustrated and as miserable as we were.
We are frustrating people.
And I'm getting a lot of validation from that, because it's just part of growth. It is part of the process. And if there's no commitment, we probably would have walked away from a lot of things in our life that had become something really great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even this room that we're in is a great example. We didn't know how to build anything when we started this project. That took 3 years.
I barely knew how to swing a hammer.
Right. And we, you know, look on YouTube, how do you put up a brick wall? And it's really amazing the things that are not in our wheelhouse of expertise that we can figure out enough of how to do. And I think it makes you just feel really great in the world. Like doing this basement was really great because now I feel like if we break something, we know exactly how to fix it. And
Yeah,
so
or look on
whatever.
YouTube and figure out how to do it.
Exactly.
Right?
And this idea, you know, and we've talked about this concept of the electric fence, right? And the electric fence is, you know, if you think about a regular fence, your dog's out in the yard, they can't get out. But if there's an electric fence, they stay where it's comfortable. They stay in the center of the yard. It's very comfortable. They get closer to the electricity. Oh, very uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, and anytime we try to grow, I could tell you today when I worked out with my trainer, he was not having me lift any small weights. He was going for the big stuff. And, you know, that's why I had to push myself, and I'm hurting now, but I'm going to heal, and I'm going to be stronger and better for it. And it's always that way. It's never the softer, easier, comfortable way. And so when the dog goes to that electricity, they get uncomfortable. And if they tolerate the uncomfortableness, they could be free.
Right. Right.
And that's the point. And that is why making a commitment and holding yourself, you know, it's like you have to go against everything you've learned and hold yourself to something that's painful and lean into that so that you can grow and become and be bigger than you were. Or working out with a trainer, hopefully a little smaller than I am. But it's that change, and it's not a comfortable process. And too often we shy away from it, and we just go back to where it's comfortable, where we have that apathy and entropy, and our lives become tiny and small. And that's a scary part about COVID too, right? All the things that we used to push ourselves towards, like we can hardly leave the house. And people are getting scared.
You know, I like I like you bringing up the topic of pain, right? Because I don't think people really understand that pain is inevitable.
Yes.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. So if you make a commitment and you move towards achieving that commitment, there's pain associated with the growth. Even if you succeed, there's still pain associated with it, right? Hiking all those miles was very, very painful, even though we achieved it, right? And then there's also pain associated with not achieving it.
Yes.
And there's pain associated with not pursuing it at all.
Right.
Right? The pain of regret.
So you just got to pick your pain.
Which pain would you rather have?
Right.
Right. And, you know, the client I was talking to today about wanting to learn how to play guitar, you know, I said, it sounds like you're really facing a bucket list question, you know, and that is that, you know, when you are on your deathbed and you look back on your life, is this, if you did not pursue this, is this something that you would regret? Right? Or if you pursued it, is it something that you would feel fulfilled about in your life?
Yeah, I don't think we realize what miracles we are. That of millions of sperm that came running to create you.
Oh boy.
The best one got there. And you are one in a million. We are all one in a million. And we have this life on this earth at this time. And what are we really going to do with it? What are we really going to do with it? And the things that really matter and the things that make our lives rich and fulfilling always start with a relationship. I remember, you know, the 1,000 miles was my dream. You know, that wasn't your dream, but you knew I was crazy enough to do it. And you didn't want me wandering around the mountains by myself. And so you joined me. And I remember about a month before the big hike, you had an infection in your foot.
Yeah.
And we went on a hike and you couldn't do it. And you stayed back at camp and we set you up in a hammock and you got to read a book. And, you know, me and Jasmine, our dog, went for the hike, and it was at Devil's Lake in Wisconsin. If you've been there, it's beautiful. You go up this little mountainside, maybe more of a hill now that we've been in the mountains, and you get to the top and it's really beautiful. You see the lake out in front of you. And I remember being really moved by seeing that beauty and thinking that my partner wasn't with me. And before I did that hike, I thought, whether you come or not, I'm going. I am doing this regardless if you're in or not. And I knew at that moment, there is no way that I could experience something as grand as the John Muir Trail and it wasn't part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't even know where we would be if that had happened. And to know that our bond and our connection and having that big of a thing without the other person would have tainted something. It would have made it, I could never have talked about it in front of you. It would have hurt you,
Right, because it would create a divide between the two of us, which just kind of highlights and reinforces how much more powerful commitments are when they're made between two people, right? In a relationship, in a committed relationship. And then that word, committed relationship, it goes together because it means something, right? There's power in that. And that's kind of why we came up with the word with couples, synergy, right? Synergy is that, the two are more powerful than each as individuals, right? And the two of them combined create something greater. And, that's really what we preach and what our passion is about helping couples create that within their relationship. And it's absolutely possible, right? I was talking with someone today who was like, I don't envy, or I'm not jealous about your relationship, and the relationship that we have here, and was very complimentary about what the two of us have created. And, the thing is that this is possible for everyone. It's not just reserved for specific people in this world. It is absolutely possible for everyone. And it does start with commitment, and it does start with like hard work and leaning into that pain and understanding that pain is part of that growth process together.
Yeah,
And,
this idea. Yeah, go ahead, Ange.
real quick, I just want to say everything you're saying about trusting your gut, leaning into your passion, right? And how it does start with a relationship, someone else might be involved. The question is, so what do you do when that doubt starts creeping up and you feel defeated?
Yeah, I was going to say that, you talked about certainty, and that was part of your life lesson. And our lessons get set up for us in childhood. And part of mine was being alone. Like I didn't trust people at all. And to be someone who went from, I just want to do this analogy that, when an animal is scared, they run to a place, they run up a tree, they run to a den. But when a person is scared, they're supposed to run to a person. And I never really had that as a child. And I ran to a den. I had several dens and really cool forts that I had that were mine, that were private. And then to go from that to really merging with you, that I wouldn't want to have an experience that you weren't a part of, because that would hurt worse than protecting myself and doing what I wanted. And I can tell you this, it takes a lot of leaning into pain. How many times in our relationship did I run away?
Quite a bit. Yeah, a few times. Sure.
Yep. And I would just get in the car and go. Sometimes I'd stay away from her for hours, sometimes a day, overnight, and that was my coping skill. My coping skill was to run. It still is. It's been a while. I don't think I run as much as I used to, but for a long time, that would be what I did. I would run, and then I would have to figure it out, and I'd have to get the courage to come back and work through it. And each time I did that, you were here waiting. And not only were you here waiting, you missed me. And I'd never had that before. I never had anyone, if I was gone, they were going and doing whatever they wanted. They weren't thinking about me. And so it took, and, we're close to being a couple for 24 years in February, of married and dating, 24 years. And it really takes a very long time to work through those wounds and to work through that pain and to trust and to merge and to create synergy. And so lean in and lean in and lean in, because every time you feel that and you want to run, that means something's coming up for healing. And if you're with someone who you really can't share those things with, either you have to figure that out and do your own work so you can learn how to share, or you have to make sure that person really is a safe person, or you both need help in trying to figure out how to bring those things together. And this is why we offer some of the programs we do, like the couples weekend. And that's to teach the couple how to lean in. You have a men's empowerment group. There is an anxiety group starting. The anxiety group is for, your own self. When you block yourself, that's going to show up as anxiety. It might be a vague anxiety. It might be something, but it's definitely energy that's telling you something's out of balance and you need to move into that. And that group is coming up on February 17th. That's a 6-week group. And so all the groups that we have designed are for all of those things, whether it's in the wheelhouse of you as an individual person, as learning relationship skills, or, however we need to tend to those things. And it takes all of it. And, the couple to couple program, we teach all of that in there, both parts. We always get in trouble for this, but every relationship is a 50-50.
Each person contributes equally to the condition of their relationship, right? There never is one person more responsible than the other, right? So you kind of in listening to what you were saying, so when you have that doubt inside, you can't just be reactive to that doubt. You have to do some exploration. And that's what you're talking about.
You might at first be reactive.
Right. It's a light on a dashboard that's going off. It's telling you that something is wrong. You've got to attend to it. You have to understand it. And is this doubt because the person that you're with is not good for you?
Right.
Right. Or is this doubt because you're afraid? And so digging deep into that gut, right? Because as we talked about it, your gut will always tell you what the right thing is for you. It will always be right. Always, right? It's our head that can talk us out of what is correct for us. Okay. So that's exploration. It's something that we all have to do constantly. We have to be digging in to understand where we're at right now, where we want to go, who we want to be, right? And that is a lifelong process. Now, take a relationship, and I got two people needing to do that, and then also the relationship needing to do it as well.
And this is exactly why every couple out there comes to see us, because of communication breakdown.
Yeah.
And communication breakdown is
right.
not about vocabulary. It is about the individual person's connection between their head and heart. And then how do they convey that to their partner? And you're right. Whenever we have the disconnect between our head and our heart, we're always going to go with our head.
Yeah. Our head is designed to debate both sides.
Yeah.
So that's why I love it when people just get stuck in that cycle in their head, and they go pros, cons. Well, when it comes to real decisions in life, it has nothing to do with your intellect. It has to do with your feeling. It has to do with your emotions. Think about your pizza. What do you want on your pizza? That's not an intellectual decision or a rational decision. It is an emotional decision, right? And so when you're trying to make a choice about something that really, really matters, it's not going to make sense to other people. It should only make sense to you. And it's something that you have to feel deep down inside. That's really it. And, helping people navigate that and connect with that's exciting. I love doing it.
Yeah.
I love it. Right.
Because how many times were we told no?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a really special meditation today. Ange, any other last minute thoughts, questions?
There is a last minute question, and if you can answer it in a couple of minutes, then we have enough time to include the meditation as well. The question being, I'm hearing everything you're saying, but what happens when you write down that passion and that goal and you start comparing yourself to other people and you see how successsill they have been?
I love this. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take this right away.
Go in.
Okay. It's very easy especially in today's day and world, right? To compare yourself. And, God, I was talking to Gabe, I was talking to you about this earlier, right? Oh my gosh, this is great because, when you are looking at what you're doing, you have these things in front of you, these goals, and you're trying to achieve it. And then you go on like Facebook or you go on Instagram and you're looking at these people. Wait a second, they've already achieved this. Wait, they're already here. They're here. They're there, right? And it's so demoralizing. It can really crumble or start to attack the things that you are working on. But you can't look at another person's path. You absolutely cannot. If there's anything we've learned about being behind closed doors with couples, thousands of couples, is that nobody has got it down. Nobody. It doesn't matter how much money they make. They can be sitting there in Teslas and big, huge houses, but we know what's going on behind those closed doors and how much pain they're in and how much disconnect that's happening, right? So you can't compare yourself to anyone. There's a really cool thing, really cool example I use. I have this crystal in my office, this amethyst crystal, right? And that amethyst crystal I pulled out of the ground in South Carolina in a rainstorm. Remember that?
Yeah.
We were in this mine and I pulled it out of the ground. I didn't know what it was really. And I just started kind of rubbing off the dirt and everything. And after washing it off, I saw this huge, awesome amethyst crystal. And, you think about that, how many years it has been in the ground where no one has ever seen it before. And I was the first person in the world to pull it out. And that there's also maybe a handful of people in this world that have actually held it, right? The ones that I've worked with locally and have been in my office and actually held it. So how much value do you put on that, right? Because there's no other crystal in the world like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's priceless. And when you think of ourselves from that perspective that we are just as unique, each one of us, we have our own perspective on things. We have our own passions, and we are just as unique as that one crystal. You can't put a price tag on it, and you can't compare.
Right. I had a session yesterday and the person was like, I see all these people and they're all married and they're all happy and they're all have it down and they have their careers. And I'm laughing going, no, they don't. You think that's what you're seeing.
Right.
And it's such a lie. And I just really want to hit on this one little topic that really is a perfect explanation for this. And that is that we have these two emotions that are very different, but they sound very similar. And one of them is jealousy, and the other one is envy. And jealousy is a natural emotion that we have. And jealousy is what we have to protect something so that it doesn't get taken from us. It is the thing that makes us couple. It makes us take care of our children. It makes us, bond and be part of something. And there's a pain that goes with that being pulled away from us. The second one of envy is one of the 7 deadly sins. And it's one of the 7 deadly sins because envy says there's a lack. That if you have this beautiful relationship, I don't get to have it. And that's a lie. And if someone else has a beautiful car and you want it, you could have that too. There's not a limited supply. It's envy is a lie. It says that, well, other people got it, so I can't have it. And that's the lie. That's the lie that we hear. And that keeps us small people. And it takes us off the hook from actually working towards anything. If you want something, go out and get it. There's nothing stopping you. And if you're not the person that's ready to have it, then do your work. Do your work and become that person. And that's the beauty of it, that we all can grow and become whatever those things are. And you can read any biography on any human being that's made something of themselves, and you will see that journey. You will see it right there, that it wasn't like I woke up and someone opened the door and they offered me this wonderful position and I met the person of my dreams and I lived happily ever after. It never sounds like that. Ever, ever, ever. Do the work. Just do the work. It's there. It's there. That is the beauty of being human beings on this earth, right?
Yes. And it's necessary
And it's necessary.
in order to be happy.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, if you're listening to us, you already know that you're doing the
Yes.
work.
Right.
One quote that I love that was helpful to me when I'd written a paper, which was supposed to be about self-discovery, who are you and who do you want to be, was this is what the teacher wrote at the end, right? And she's like, I forgot who said this quote, but we already are the person who we most want to be, just in process.
I love
Beautiful.
it. I love it. Absolutely.
And so if you've ever joined me in any of my classes on spiritual development, especially on the chakra system that we just did last month, I was talking about the fifth chakra. And the fifth chakra is really interesting to me because it's the part of us that is connected to taste and smell and hearing and our lungs and our bronchia and our thyroid. This is all the places where we communicate. And it's very similar to all the symptoms of COVID. And so I really believe we're going through this beautiful time where we're opening up this part of our body. And sadly, we've been told to wear a mask,
Cover it up.
cover it up and shut that up, right? And so that's the meditation I want to do is this is kind of a little bit of chair yoga that we're going to do in this meditation to help open up this part of us, because when we learn to speak our truth, we have to trust our heart in order to speak our truth. Our truth, this fifth chakra in our throat, is really in between our head and our heart. And it's, if we open that up and we hear our heart and we speak our truth, that's where we find all these things come into synergy, and these things do line up, and then we resonate to the frequency where we can have those things. So let's go.
All right.
All right. So just sit in a comfortable position and just focus on your breath. And be really aware of your inhale and your exhale. Make sure your spine is straight and your shoulders are back. And with your next inhalation, slowly rotate your head so that your nose is pointing over your right shoulder. Just use your inhalation to move your head very slowly, very consciously, until you're looking over your right shoulder. And take 3 deep, conscious breaths as you hold yourself in this position, and even push your left shoulder down a little bit and feel the stretch. And on your third exhalation, bring your nose back till it's pointing straight ahead of you. And you're centered and balanced again. And with your next inhalation, move your head in the other direction so that your nose is pointed over your left shoulder. And take 3 slow, deep, conscious breaths. And pull your right shoulder down a little bit as you feel that opening, as you're looking over your left shoulder, opening up the right side of your neck. And on your third exhalation, bring your nose back to center. And on your next inhalation, gently start to look up toward the ceiling with your eyes closed until your chin is pointing up toward the ceiling, and feel that stretch in the front of your neck. And when you're all the way opened up and your chin is facing the ceiling, push your chin out, wiggle it back and forth. And feel that good stretch in the front of your neck. And with your third exhalation, bring it back to the center where your nose is pointing straight ahead. And take a deep conscious breath. And with your next inhalation, bring your chin down to your chest. Feel the stretch in the back of your neck. Pull your shoulders down a little bit. And with your third exhalation, raise your chin up again until once again your head is centered and balanced and your nose is pointing forward. And take a conscious breath. And with your next inhalation, drop your right ear to your right shoulder, holding everything else in place. Feel the stretch on the left side of your neck. And take 3 conscious breaths. And with your last exhalation, move your head up again until it's centered and balanced. And take another conscious breath. And with your next inhalation, drop your left ear to your left shoulder. Feel the opening and the stretch on the right side of your neck. Take 3 conscious breaths. And on your last exhalation, bring your head back to center. And just be aware of what it feels like now that your neck muscles are stretched and open. And bring your awareness down to your heart center at the same level as your heart, but in the center of your chest. And imagine surrounding that part of you, which is your thymus gland, with golden energy. And give the intent for your high heart center's complete activation and evolution. And bring your awareness up into your sacred brain. And imagine your sacred brain bathed in golden energy, sifting through and between each and every cell. And give the intent for your evolution to accelerate. Nurture the connection between your head and your heart. Contemplate what it means to think with your heart and feel with your head. Use your wisdom and love to balance the increased self-empowerment. And now make a small commitment to yourself that you will act on your feelings when you have an inkling, an intuition, an idea, or a gut feeling, that you'll follow it through and see where it takes you until you learn to trust the wisdom of your heart. And take 3 conscious breaths and gently open your eyes.
That was great, Jean.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. So thank you all for joining us today on our Couple Synergy weekly webinar.
And if you're not part of Connections, join Connections.
Please
and
do.
You'll have access to those groups we're talking about. And you can sign up for the monthly spirituality group, the 6-week anxiety group that'll be starting February 17th, the once a month men's empowerment group, which started this month, but you can join at any time.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so exciting. I can't wait for it next month.
So needed. There's not enough places for men.
Definitely.
Anxiety is like so commonplace. Like we think we're supposed to live with it. You know, there's so much you can do to move out of that. That anxiety is telling you.
What's really sad is how many of our kids today are struggling with anxiety. Yeah, it's very, 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 very sad. So in our weekend intensive,
yes,
April 15th through the 19th,
we are for sure going to hold this weekend. COVID is going to allow something to happen. This is a 30-room inn. If we can be at, 10 couples or 15 couples instead of 30, we are going to hold this weekend. So make sure we're
going to do what it takes to make sure it is safe for everyone.
We are for sure moving forward. That's April 15th through the 18th. And it's going to be like if this is a spark, that's going to be a bonfire.
Yeah.
It's going to be really amazing. So go to Connections, go to the library. All that stuff is available there. If you have any questions or concerns or for some reason can't get through, you can email us at
contact@couplessynergy.com.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's good night.
Until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.